running society. Everybody's moving. Grabbing fast food as opposed to eating healthy.
We have an epidemic of kidney disease in this country right now. Obesity leads to kidney disease. Obesity leads to diabetes. Obesity leads to hypertension. Obesity is a killer. We now have the highest incidence of obesity in the world. The typical patient that's waiting for a transplant on dialysis has a life expectancy somewhere between 4 and 5 years.
The number one problem in transplantation today is the shortage of donors. And we've got to do two things: increase donation rates and live healthier lifestyles.
We have an epidemic of kidney disease in this country right now.
It's estimated that between 17 and 20 Americans die every day from chronic kidney disease. The wait list for people needing a transplant stands at about 90,000 and counting. It's a well-known fact that a person with 2 kidneys can donate one and still live a healthy and productive life with 1 remaining kidney. But yet, the need for donors to come forward is great. Chronic kidney disease doesn't discriminate. It can strike anyone. But research has shown that Black Americans are most at risk. In fact, many people, especially those in the Black community, may have chronic kidney disease and don't know it. The stations are lined up with precision. Here, they come in one by one for treatment. Every last one of them will tell you they'd rather be somewhere else and not have to come in here. Karen Avant is no different. It's a routine she has become very accustomed to and has down cold.
Because you can't go without a treatment. I mean, there have been a few times I have gone without treatment, but I paid for it later on.
Most of us go about our routines on any given weekend without giving some things, like our good health, a second thought. On this day, Karen trudges into this dialysis center just outside Washington, D.C. for one reason: to stay alive. All she has to do is remember what it feels like to miss a dialysis session.
I had to rush in here that following Monday because I had too much fluid on me for missing that Saturday. So I don't do that anymore. Not at all.
Fluid, as in too much fluid in her body. Karen is living with 1 kidney, and it's failing. So 3 times a week she comes in for her dialysis treatment. Karen is in need of a kidney transplant. She's been down this road before.
This is my second go-round. I started in 2000, and I stayed on for about 6 months till my transplant. Then I had a transplant in June of 2000 and rejected 2006.
Karen Avant may have experience going through the transplant process, but that doesn't make it any easier. She's patiently waiting and hoping for a donor organ. As painful and frightening as it may be for Karen and other patients like her, it's an ordeal that Raymond Brooks is hoping to experience again for himself. Brooks is 32 years old and also in need of a second kidney transplant. He's been on dialysis for 10 years.
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 times a week.
Like clockwork, 3 times a week, Brooks drives himself to a dialysis center for treatment. There isn't one thing about it he likes, and he'll be the first one to let you know.
Oh, man. I hate it. I hate coming here. I mean, the people here are great, but just the fact that, I mean, when you think about it, this machine right here, it keeps me alive, you know? It is what it is, and just that thought, I hate that thought, but, you know, right now I have no way around it. Without a kidney, this machine is my best friend, I guess.
Dialysis is the process in which a person's blood is cleansed and put back into the body. More specifically, dialysis helps to remove waste and excess water from the bloodstream. Such a process is needed when a person's kidneys are failing.
Dialysis does a great job of keeping people alive.
Dr. Keith Melanson is a kidney and pancreatic surgeon whose work is renowned in the field of transplants.
Most patients will not live 10 years on dialysis. Statistics are good for group populations, but it doesn't tell you anything about the individual. So there are individuals that take very good care of themselves, follow the directions of their physicians and healthcare professionals, and can live on dialysis a very long period of time.
But Dr. Melanson is quick to point out that dialysis is not a cure-all. It's a bandage of sorts, at least until the patient gets a new kidney. Karen and Raymond have chronic kidney disease. They are two of an estimated 26 million American adults living with the condition. They follow the guidance of their doctors and are hopeful for the best of outcomes. But there is one thing that is out of their control to a degree, that being the connection between kidney disease and the Black community. Medical experts say the connection is valid. The question is, why?
Kidney disease in African Americans are associated in many different ways. I guess the first thing is that African Americans, because of their predilection to hypertension, diabetes, and obesity, have the highest incidence of end-stage renal disease in the United States of America.
Dr. Clive Callender is the chief of transplant surgery at Howard University Hospital in Washington.
Having end-stage renal disease twice as much as other ethnic groups, so that there's a tremendous association of African Americans and kidney failure.
The statistics are alarming to say the least. According to the National Kidney Foundation, about 29% of all patients treated for kidney failure in the U.S. are Black. In fact, diabetes and high blood pressure are the leading causes of kidney failure in the Black community, with more than 40% of Black Americans believed to have high blood pressure, many of whom don't even know it. That bears repeating. More than 40% of Black Americans have high blood pressure, and many of them don't know it. And the consequences could be severe, even deadly.
Chronic kidney disease is a situation where, is it high blood pressure or diabetes? What happens is, over time, a continual injury is happening to the kidney. With high blood pressure, it's not something that is going to present a problem within weeks, months, or years, but over time, that high blood pressure causes damage slowly to the kidneys. Even diabetes, because so many people think that their diabetes is just a minor thing and may ignore it for many years until they have really bad side effects. And really what should be happening is people that have high blood pressure, people that have diabetes, they need to be getting that under control very early.
Getting it under control early means getting the word out. Health professionals admit the task is daunting when it comes to educating people about the warning signs of kidney disease. The job becomes even more difficult when it comes to convincing people who otherwise feel good that something could still be wrong. Michael Davis says he never saw it coming.
I've never been sick. One morning I was on my way to work, and I had like a really sharp pain behind my left eye, and I was going to go to work, but I decided to just go to the hospital instead. And when I went in there, I signed in, took my vitals and everything. Once she took my vitals, that's when she noticed I had a blood pressure of 224/175. And basically that's, when everything happened.
Davis went on dialysis immediately.
Oh, well, I'm allergic to needles and pain. I'll put it to you like that. So if you can imagine everything else, because I can show you what was part of what I went on through, as far as dialysis. They put my fistula in my arm here, and right here, these are basically 2 points where they would take and stick me. One needle would go in to this is actually the return needle, and this needle here was actually the needle that pulls the blood out.
Davis was placed on a wait list and eventually got a donor kidney. But early screenings and a routine physical could have gone a long way toward preventing what he had to go through.
You can help yourself by living a healthier lifestyle, by getting your urine screen done for protein as soon as possible, getting your blood pressure checked twice a year after the age of 12, checking your urine for sugar to see if you have diabetes. And if you then add to that eating healthier foods, eating less fat, less fried foods, eating more fish, less red meat, exercising 5 times a week for 30 minutes a day.
And if you've been diagnosed with symptoms,
most of the people that are going to develop kidney disease are developing it because their high blood pressure and their diabetes was not under good control. So you could actually prevent the development of kidney disease by taking very good care of yourself. That means going to see a doctor regularly, taking your medication. Diet and exercise is very, very important.
taking care of one's health is important, but there are instances when it can simply be a matter of genetics. If high blood pressure or diabetes runs in your family, then you could be at risk of developing kidney disease, no matter how healthy a lifestyle you lead.
Our Father, the maker and giver of every good and perfect gift.
There are other cases when a form of kidney disease can strike without any known family history behind it. In the case of 6-year-old Ayoka Slater, it struck while she was in her mother's womb. Sherry Slater describes the problems during her pregnancy.
When I was, I think about 5 months pregnant, when they do the usual sonogram to, look over all the organs, they happened to see that her heart had fluid around it. And at that time, fluid can form around the heart of a fetus just for various reasons, but they didn't know. They couldn't offer why she had fluid around the heart, but from 5 months on, they watched her around the clock, measured the fluid to make sure that it wasn't going to increase, and everything focused on the heart.
It wasn't until Ayoka was 2 months old that doctors found out her kidneys were being attacked. Everything came to a head when she started having trouble breathing and had to be rushed to the hospital.
The reason why she was breathing funny was because she had acidosis, which is high acidity in your blood. And that's when they told us that she was in end-stage renal failure and that her kidneys were rapidly deteriorating and that they were trying to work to get her system clean. Just her kidneys weren't filtering, so that's why she was very, very ill.
Little Ayoka came into this world sick and fighting for her life. In the case of Michael Davis, you'll recall that he had never been sick a day in his life. Ayoka's and Michael's cases are similar, yet different. Ayoka was born with her condition. Michael Davis's condition apparently developed over time. Could their cases have been detected earlier? Perhaps. Being proactive and taking the initiative, getting yourself screened, even when you're not experiencing symptoms, is vital, especially for those in the Black community. Education, getting the word out, is just as important. But influencing human behavior and prompting people to think about kidney health is a tall order. The National Kidney Foundation says the key is getting to people early.
We have a program called KEEP, which is the Kidney Early Evaluation Program, and that's a national program that we've implemented and instituted in our communities to find those patients who might have a family history of kidney problems, which again puts them at higher risk, underlying diseases like diabetes or high blood pressure.
Free health screenings like this one are an example of getting the word out about preventative health care. Some may walk away knowing they are at risk and should seek medical attention promptly. It starts at the grassroots level, and healthcare experts say it will take time to see the results.
The numbers are high, but as with any prevention program, the outcomes are measured not in year 1 or year 2. The outcome measures are really in year 5 to year 10. And we are working really aggressively, I think, with community leaders, with local governments, to establish follow-up programs so that we can, in 5 or 10 years, say, in fact, look at the incidence, it's coming down, or look what we've been able to do.
For Karen Avant, Raymond Brooks, Ayoka Slater, and Michael Davis, early screenings and preventative measures aren't an option anymore. Brooks is proactive about his care now, but that wasn't always the case. He was born with just one kidney and it started to deteriorate when he was 15 years old. Brooks's mother immediately stepped in and donated one of her kidneys to help save her son. Things were going well. Brooks went away to college, but inexperience affected his post-transplant care, and he eventually had to be put back on dialysis. 10 years later, he's still on dialysis and waiting for a kidney.
My white blood count cells are very high, so it's very hard for me to get another transplant. So in my mind, I'm like, it might not happen. This might be my routine for the next 50 years.
Brooks is much more disciplined about his care now. He has his regimen down, as evidenced by the dialysis he now receives 3 times a week, plus all of his medications. But the effects of dialysis vary from person to person. You remember seeing Michael Davis's arm. Those pictures on their own tell the story. The sessions also sometimes take a toll on Brooks. It's hit or miss on how he comes out feeling after each treatment. On this particular day, he's exhausted. The same goes for Karen Avant. It doesn't help matters when you have an aversion to needles.
I felt a little relief because I know that the fluid is going to be taken out of me. Also, I'm just still nervous with the fact of being hooked up because I don't like needles.
Nerves and anxiety are just 2 of the many emotions kidney disease patients feel as they seek treatment and wait for a donor organ. But oftentimes you'll find that it takes a toll on friends and family as well. Understandably, they say it's extremely difficult to see their loved ones in pain. Hazel Harris is Raymond Brooks' mother. You'll recall she donated a kidney to her son when he was 15 years old. Now she's seeing him go through the same ordeal of waiting and hoping for a donor to come forward.
I've been there by his side, so I know what he's going through. So to say it's easy, no, it's not. But living with it, we are adjusting, but it's not easy. It's not easy. It's hard. I can when he takes his medications, I know that it's something that he needs to keep him going. A cold chill go through me every time I see him take it, because I know that he needed to live, but for a young person to go through that, it's really hard.
Sherry Slater echoes that sentiment. She talks about feeling an overwhelming sense of guilt when she thinks back about being pregnant with her daughter, Ayoka.
I had 3 sons, and I'm sorry, 3 sons, and they were all healthy. And I just blamed myself. I thought, maybe I just didn't take care of myself well enough. Maybe I should have stayed out the lab because I'm a chemist. But because I had worked through with my first 3, I just didn't think it was any differently, so I did blame myself at first.
With the wait list for kidneys on the rise, the need for donors to come forward is greater than ever. The shortage becomes even more problematic for those in the Black community.
If you're Caucasian, you wait somewhere between 3 to 4 years for a kidney transplant. However, if you're African American, you're going to wait 5 to 6 years for a kidney transplant. So your chance of dying while awaiting a transplant is going to be much higher if you're African American and you don't have a living donor.
Why the difference in organ wait periods between whites and blacks? You've seen the statistics that show that Black Americans are more prone to high blood pressure, diabetes, and heart disease, which can all lead to kidney failure. But Dr. Clive Callender says another factor in the past was racism. He points to a time when it was stressed that a black patient in need of a kidney should only receive a kidney from a black donor. Dr. Callender says that theory has long since been debunked.
Let's face it, the Human Genome Project has made it clear that we're all of the same race. There's only one race, Homo sapiens. So that the need for an ethnic match is no longer considered an essential issue as it used to be years ago.
An ethnic match of organs is no longer seen as essential. What's preferable, however, is getting a kidney from a living donor rather than someone who is deceased.
We know that living donor transplantation is the best type of transplant for any patient with kidney disease, but especially for minority patients, and particularly African Americans. These patients do best with living donor transplants. So we really make it an effort to try to get these patients living donor transplants, knowing that those transplants will last the longest and these patients will have long lives as a result of that.
Remember, Raymond Brooks was born with one kidney. When that organ failed, his mother donated one of hers. There you have it, an organ from a living donor, and from a family member no less. Sherry Slater had said earlier that she had problems during her pregnancy. When her daughter, Ayoka, was born, it was ultimately learned that her kidneys were failing. Once properly diagnosed, Slater donated one of her kidneys to help save her infant daughter. Another case showing the best possible outcome. It's well known now by most people that a human being can live with just one kidney. Kidney donation has risen over the years, but there is still a shortage. Do white people tend to donate their kidneys more than black people? For a long stretch of time, that was indeed true. Why? Dr. Clive Callender says myths about organ donation have been circulated within the black population in the U.S. for years.
What we found in the African American population is that there were 5 reasons why they were reluctant to become donors. The first was the lack of information. No one had gone to the African American community and educated them about the fact that we were disproportionately affected by hypertension, diabetes, and obesity, and therefore we needed kidneys more than any other ethnic group. The second had to do with religious myths and misperceptions. Concerns that in that great getting up morning, when you go to the pearly gates, St. Peter might say, well, if you don't have your 2 organs with you, you only get 1 wing, or no wings at all. The third obstacle had to do with a fear that we would be used as guinea pigs again. The Tuskegee incident had a very long-reaching effect. The fourth had to do with a basic fear that if I sign a donor card and I go to the hospital, they just might be more concerned with getting my organs and tissues than with saving my life. That's not the case, but that was the myth. The fifth issue had to do with a concern about racism. Racism is alive and well. Race is not an issue any longer, but racism is. And the perception was that if I'm black and I leave my organs, they're only going to go to white people. Now that's a myth, because at Howard University Hospital, when we first started doing our transplants, 70% of the organs we got for our black patients were from whites. Of course, that's turned around now, and 70% of the organs that we get for our black patients are from blacks.
The increase in organ donation by black Americans that Dr. Callender speaks of comes as a result of a 20-year program that he spearheaded out of Howard University. It started with a bare-bones budget, but soon ballooned to a multi-million-dollar funded program that targeted not just the black community, but the Latino and Asian populations as well. It covered everything from face-to-face communication in urban areas to educational ads through the media.
Not only did we address increasing donation rates, we also addressed loving yourself, take care of yourself, changing your behavior and lifestyle, so that we could decrease the inordinately high incidence of end-stage renal disease. Getting our minority population to lose the race from the cradle to the grave. Far too often we win that race. We want to lose that race. We want to come in last and live longer, healthier lives.
A positive trend indeed that there's been an increase in organ donation in America by black people as well as Latinos and Asians. But the shortage remains for people of all races, and the awareness and education campaign continue.
If we can reduce the wait by education campaigns that stress, how a kidney donation really occurs and demystifying the process, making sure people understand that it's not some sort of, backroom illegal procedure, that it's a well-established medical treatment, that it occurs every day in this country, and that we have skilled physicians and surgeons who do these procedures. It really is life-saving.
Recently, there's been a trend toward what's called a national kidney exchange. One such exchange was held in 2010 in Washington, D.C., a fitting location since Washington has the highest rate of end-stage kidney disease per capita in the country, according to the National Kidney Foundation.
We were very proud to have been a part of another very large paired kidney exchange. This is very important for this area because what we're trying to do is we are trying to maximize the number of transplants, especially living donor transplants, that can be done in this population.
Here's how it played out. When a relative of a kidney patient couldn't provide a match for their loved one, they donated a kidney anyway and added to the chain. And so it went. Husbands, wives, sons, cousins, and Good Samaritans joined in. When all was said and done, 32 people took part, 16 donors and 16 recipients. The end result was this.
We're going to Jordan Grove.
This kidney exchange actually got its start after the unexpected death of a 24-year-old Florida woman, Jennifer Whitford, whose mother made the decision to donate her organs.
It gives me comfort to know that Jennifer helped someone who really needed her. And I'm glad that in her lifetime she had a chance to make a difference. And I thank you.
We know that this extends life. And one of the things that we were most proud about was the fact that so many of those patients were minority patients, number one. And then number two, a lot of those patients were very young. And these young people, when you transplant them and you return them to be active members of society, you're not only doing something for them or their families, but you're doing something for society as a whole.
Organ donation on a grand scale. But let's not forget the one-on-one cases.
And I said, that can't be. I'm healthy, 26-year-old, there's no way. And they repeated the test twice, and sure enough, in fact, I was having the beginnings of kidney failure.
The year was 1982. At 26, Ron Paul was the picture of health, with no history of kidney disease in his family.
It was a very unusual situation. I actually was applying for a life insurance plan. And when I went through the normal process where you have a urine test and blood test, they came back and said that I had kidney failure. Never having kidney failure, any kidney problems throughout my entire family. It was just a very bizarre, unusual, never could figure out why situation.
One of Paul's brothers stepped in and donated a kidney. That kidney lasted 19 years. During that time, he got married, had a family, and started a successful business that he runs to this day. Then he started having symptoms again. That's when a longtime friend and colleague stepped in with a look of determination.
My partner and CFO in my real estate company, who is really part of my family, Kathy and I have worked together since 28 years now. And it was, she immediately reached out like my brother Stephen did and said, this is what I want to do. I always knew eventually that you would need another transplant, and I'm here. And if you know Kathy, you don't argue with Kathy.
One look at Kathy, and you knew it wasn't up to Ron Paul anymore.
I just approached it as, look, this is what I'm doing. You know, you can say whatever you want, but this is what I'm doing. He couldn't stop me. Nobody could really stop me. As long as the doctor said it was a go, I was totally there.
White, black, Asian, Latino, Native American, Pacific Islanders. It doesn't matter. There's always a need for organ donors. And we're not just talking kidneys. People coming together for the greater good, to give the gift of life. Some 6 months have passed since we last talked with Karen Avant. Remember that she's been waiting for a donor kidney for the last 4 years. If she gets a new kidney, it would be her second transplant procedure. The call literally came in the middle of the night, and it was a whirlwind from there. A kidney was found from a person who recently died and left her organs for a donation as a gift. Karen was told to make preparations to come in as soon as possible. She described the emotions running through her as she was being admitted to the hospital.
Fear, nervous, scared, everything. But the nurse held my hand, she prayed with me. Nervous, hopefully that I was going to come through this. The anxiety of waiting and all of it, just everything just mixed together. You know, because when you're going through with anesthesia, you never know what's going to happen. Afraid, hopefully, that the kidney doesn't reject why it's being put in me, because that can happen. It was just a whole lot of emotions.
Karen was in the hospital for a week, and she describes it as a nerve-wracking one.
The whole time I was in there, I was afraid because I didn't want the rejection to happen.
And it didn't. The kidney took. Karen came through the operation with flying colors. It's a crisp but sunny winter morning. Raymond Brooks shares in joint custody of his son. Father and son are together on this particular weekend, and they seize the opportunity.
A day like this, I gotta take full advantage of it, you know. I got a grown boy who is full of energy and loves the outside. So when we can get outside and play like in the field we were in, you know, it's good for the both of us. You know, to see him smile like that, I can't beat that feeling. It gets no better than that.
Brooks is a young man. At 32, it could easily be said that he's in the prime of his life. Seeing him play with his son is proof of it. But he's 10 years into dialysis as he continues to wait for a kidney. There's no doubt that it's hard on him. But Brooks says he doesn't have to look far if he needs motivation to keep fighting. That motivation is his son, Assad.
You want to get down? What you want to do? You want to swing or get down? I have plenty of reason to fight, man. My son is, I couldn't have received a greater gift in life. You know, so he means everything to me. Everything I pretty much do now is for him. So yeah, he's a whole lot to fight for. He's a whole lot to every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 a.m. to get up and, you know, I gotta be here because I need to live and make sure he becomes something. So yeah, fighting for him he's the main goal right now. He's what the battle's for right now.
Having a young son like Assad is certainly a good reason for Brooks to fight. His mother sees the grit and determination on her son's face and marvels at it.
He can't be a normal dad, and that's hard. It's hard for him to, you know, to be a normal dad, but he does the best that he can, and I'm so proud of him, you know, to see that I have a son that loves his son as much as I love him, but that's hard. That's hard. It's hard for him, but he tries. He tries. He gives it 100%, and I love him for it.
A mother's love. You'll recall that Ayoka Slater's kidneys were failing during her mother's pregnancy. Ayoka was properly diagnosed, but not until after she was born. She was immediately put on dialysis. Her mother, Sherry Slater, turned out to be a perfect match for a transplant, but Ayoka had to wait over 2 years before having surgery.
They have to be a certain weight to be able to house an adult kidney. So the whole focal point was getting her, you know, as much weight on her as possible, getting her to grow as much as possible.
But children are resilient. Little Ayoka sailed through the transplant operation.
She's doing wonderful, wonderful. Every day is very much a blessing to see her not have to go on the machine, not to say that there was anything wrong with the machine, but just to not have to have her hooked up to a dialysis machine. And to be able to have 100% functioning for her is very important. So to know that I was able to give back to her is a wonderful feeling.
Slater is thankful that her daughter is doing well, but she says she's teaching her little girl at a young age what it means to have good health habits.
She's like any other little girl, except for Ayoka knows that the only difference is that she has kidney disease. Even though she has a transplant, she knows that that's not permanent. We talk in length many times over that she has to take her medicine on time every day because that's what hides her kidney from her body. She understands that. She understands quite a bit about her health. And with that, it empowers her to take care of herself.
It's that kind of approach that medical professionals applaud.
Living a healthier lifestyle is really not an obligation and a moral obligation that you have for someone who's died and left the organs behind, or somebody who's alive is giving you an organ in life, because you now owe a gift and a debt that you can pay by living a healthier lifestyle and taking your medications as you're supposed to.
Karen Avant couldn't agree more with that assessment. Nearly 2 years after we first met up with her going in for her dialysis treatment, she's back at work with a new kidney and a new lease on life.
Happy. I was happy to get out that hospital and get some real food and to see everybody.
Karen has tried a number of times to reach the family of the donor, but has been unsuccessful. The donor's family appears to want to remain anonymous. Karen says she understands and respects their decision.
I do take pride in this kidney because it has given me another chance to live again. I do feel bad for the people that lost someone that given it to me, but also, like I said, I'm very happy that it happened because I did not want to be on dialysis any longer, and hoping that this one lasts much longer than the first one.
Karen and other organ transplant recipients like her often leave the hospital with a better sense of self. For people who donate, they get just as much satisfaction, maybe more.
I keep saying I wish there was a way that I could grow another kidney because I would do it again. I'd do it once a year if I could. I really would. It's life-changing for somebody else, and it's a blip on the radar screen for me.
Earlier, we told you that Raymond Brooks had undergone his first kidney transplant when he was 15 years old. His mother, Hazel Harris, was the donor. Here she describes the experience.
Most people is not aware that they can give a kidney and still live a normal life. I'm living with one kidney. I don't even feel that I've given him a kidney. My life's been the same. I'm very active with one kidney.
Doctors say it's wonderful to hear stories of people giving the gift of life, and they encourage more people to do so. But they also say people in high-risk groups should take preventative measures now, especially Black Americans, who we know are indeed a high-risk group.
People do not typically understand that obesity leads to kidney disease. Obesity leads to diabetes. Obesity leads to hypertension, on and on and on. So obesity is a killer, and we now have the highest incidence of obesity in the world, particularly among our very young people. Our children are getting into habits that will lead them to have a shorter life expectancy.
It's an ongoing theme, getting the word out and instilling good health habits in people of all ages and races. For Raymond Brooks, it's been nearly 2 years since we first met him. Now 34 years old, he's still waiting and hopeful that a suitable kidney donor will be found. In the meantime, he plans to be there for his son.
The future of Raymond Brooks is Assad Brooks. And you know, I like to tell everybody we're the Brooks boys. Before him, I was the last Brooks. So when I got married, I was like, you know, I have to have a boy. So he is my future.
But in order to secure that future with his son, Brooks has to deal with the here and now.
That's life, man. I'm prepared for it, but it's still, it's a battle. 3 days a week is a battle. I won't complain. I gotta make it. Like I said, I got a son, so you won't hear me ever complain. Never. I'll be there. You know, I tell my techs, I'm doing this for about 10 years. I've never missed a treatment, and I never will. You know, 3 days a week, I'm on a machine, whether if I'm in the hospital or I'm at home going to their clinic, I'm there. So it is what it is, man, and I'm gonna take it for what it's worth and make it what it is, or make it what I can make it to be, you know? So excuse me.
I realized that kidney disease can strike anybody of any race at any time in their life. I think the thing that I would like to impart on a person who may be facing that reality is that there's hope. That just because you're having this, you're going through this, doesn't mean that you can't hope for a better life. And that you can have a better life. My daughter is living testament to that. That kidney disease is not something that's debilitating. It's something that's just a lifestyle change. And that's all that it is. It's just a lifestyle change.
A lifestyle change that little Ayoka Slater is making with the help of her doting parents and family. Here she is at age 6 with her new kidney, but yet still with vivid memories of what it was like to have to rely on a dialysis machine.
I don't want to be in the machine again. This is really serious. I'm very glad I got a kidney. I'm glad that Mom gave me one.
And here is little Ayoka today at age 8, still doing well thanks to her mom donating a kidney, and thanks to a great support system at home. An estimated 26 million American adults have chronic kidney disease. The numbers of people donating kidneys have gone up, but the demand remains high. Health experts stress the importance of getting screened early and often, people of all races. But statistics show that Black Americans are most at risk. Today, you've seen examples of how kidney disease can strike without warning. It is up to each one of us to take control and get screened. The sooner a person finds out, the better off he or she will be. Remember, many people may be walking around with kidney disease and don't know it. Knowledge is power. So get yourself screened so you know. I'm James Brown.